give some introduction first. Okay, so Dr. Samsul already here. Assalamualaikum, Doctor.
Waalaikumsalam, apa khabar?
Baik, Alhamdulillah. Okay, so before we proceed, let me briefly give some introduction for today's program. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and a very good morning, everyone. So, welcome to our webinar on Chatgpt in student assessment. I'm Umaymah Harun from the Faculty of Science and Marine Environment, and I am very thrilled to be your moderator for today's event. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker, Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Um, Shamsul from UITM. Now, he holds a post as Director Bahagian Pentaksiran dan Penilaian Akademik Universiti Teknologi Mara UITM Shah Alam. Okay, then we are extremely fortunate to have another expert here to share another interesting topic on ChatGPT. But today, our speaker will focus for student assessment. So what are we going to learn today is how are we going to create an effective assessment and promote critical thinking and active learning, which essential to apply key principles of effective question design and also assessment creation. By learning how to use ChatGPT to generate high quality question and assessments, educators can design assessment that accurately measure student learning and provide meaningful feedback, whereby effective questioning strategies can further promote critical thinking and encourage students to engage with the materials actively. So by incorporating this principle into their teaching, educators also can create a dynamic and engaging learning environment that will support student success. So briefly about our speaker, holding a PhD in education and master in educational technology. His areas of expertise in curriculum, e-portfolio or alternative assessment, learning and predictive analysis. Okay, leading the transformation of assessment at UITM, apart from his current post as a Director of Academic Assessment and Evaluation Division in University Technology Mara, and also expanding his interest into learning analytics by ensuring the quality, integrity, and flexibility in measuring students' performance. Therefore, Dr. Shamsul also actively engaged with ministries, industries, public and private university for research and consultation for digital maker talent and innovation initiative. He also holds a UITM Academic Award recipients category teaching social sciences and humanities back in 2019. So, ladies and gentlemen, are we ready to revolutionize our teaching and take our students' learning to new levels? So come and join our webinar on ChatGPT in student assessment and discover how this artificial intelligence is transforming our education. So please join me in welcoming Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Shamsul from UITM to our webinar. Without further ado, I hand it over to you, Doctor.
Right, Alhamdulillah. Thank you so much, Dr. Moderator, for your introductions. Assalamualaikum, selamat pagi. Apa khabar? Alhamdulillah. Today, I think that already mentioned by the speaker, we will share about the ChatGPT, especially for student assessment. And I do believe that on the previous session with Prof. Karim, I think that there are a lot of introductions. There are a lot of, I think that he discussed more on how can we harness the potentials of ChatGPT. And I'd like to thank to UMT because they are giving me about 10 minutes to explain a little bit of ChatGPT and a part of student assessment. And I do believe that I do believe that most of speakers, or most of the participants, would like to know on how can we gain from the ChatGPT, especially on designing student assessment. So, all right, and perhaps that today I will share you a little bit of maybe a tips or maybe a step or what we call on how can we interact with the ChatGPT. And I think that most probably most of the time is on showing to the participants, or maybe we can do it together, because of we will spend more time on the screen with ChatGPT. So it's more like on tutorial. I do believe that you may have a lot of information about ChatGPT, but I just want to share with you the best practice, or maybe based on my experience. And I sure that after listening this webinar, you can create more better, maybe probing questions, or much better on designing your assessment, because of you are the persons maybe know better what the student required, what are the assessment required to assess your students. All right. So before I start, um, I would like to thank to UMT because of giving me the opportunity, uh, give me some sort of what we call a time to share with UMT, or maybe other university, on how can we fully utilize the functions of ChatGPT. All right. So now I would like to share my screen first. Okay. All right. This presentation will be divided into what we call three part. All right. The first part, we are talking about the mastering the art of questions design with ChatGPT. And the second part, how can we create an advanced technique for effective question design with ChatGPT. And the last part of this session, we are creating effective assessment from design to grading. So I will assume that maybe for every single topic, we will spend about 30 minutes each. And I hope that 1 hour, 30 minutes, and plus minus with questions, we can finish around 12 within this webinar. All right. So we go for the first topic. I do believe that most of us have already explore the potential of ChatGPT. I do believe that you have done that, and I do believe that you also have read a lot of information about ChatGPT, whether it from Twitter, from LinkedIn, from Facebook, or maybe from YouTube. There are a lot of tips. There are a lot of things has been discussed about ChatGPT. But on this perspective, all right, the focus of this webinar is to look at how can we use the ChatGPT for the purpose of assessment. And most probably, what we want to highlight here is the importance of constructing, or the importance of develop the high quality questions. It's not only, we are not only talking about asking ChatGPT to just only seek the information or the knowledge, but also we want to turn over the ChatGPT in helping us not only to create a content, but also to help us on designing our assessment. How can we come up with high quality questions? And there are three important point that we need to we need to highlight here. Is the first, number one, is we are talking about the test format and setting, whether is it the test format has been conducted through physical or online, and how does the test format give some sort of significant uh, changes on how does the student answer back, especially on their behavior. While we are talking about, we are providing student with the questions, but how the students answer back the questions, and when they answer back the questions, there are there are a few things that we need to be considered, whether the student answering question based on their prior knowledge, or maybe the student asking answering the question, maybe you demand student more than answering the question. Maybe we asking the student maybe have some sort of critical thinking, creativity on asking the questions. All right. And while designing a good questions, I do believe that we are not only focused on the content, but also we are focused on the contextual questions. How does the content versus contextual can give us some sort of a different kind of quality of question? And the first and the last part is we are talking about the answer properties. So how can we design the answer properties based on the need that we required? And while notice everything, while notice this three thing, uh, I think that I do believe that most of you, maybe a little, maybe, or I think it's a must for every educators know about the Bloom taxonomy because of designing questions. Normally we are referring to the Bloom taxonomy. If you're asking me, is it the Bloom taxonomy the only taxonomy that we have? The answer is not. So we have a lot of taxonomy, but because of Malaysians, we are more towards on the Bloom taxonomy used as our measurement tools than the Bloom taxonomy is the option that we have today. But it's not limited. We have a lot of taxonomy that we can measure the cognitive domain. All right. And while talking about the Bloom taxonomy, yes, I do believe that most of you already know the level of difficulty, the knowledge dimension that we need to reach. And I think that the last part is I just want to share with you how does the Socratic questioning technique and how they can use to promote the critical thinking skills in students, whether we are looking at syntactic, semantic, or pragmatic, and how about the questions anatomy. So it's really good to have some sort of understanding what are the questions anatomy should have in, maybe for example, if I want to construct the the multiple choice questions, what are the anatomy should have and that multiple choice question. Same goes with short answer, short essay, and also a long essay, or maybe open-ended questions, or maybe if you want to extend to the alternative assessment, there are also a specific anatomy that we should address to make sure that we can come up with a good quality questions. All right. I just like to emphasize, this is one of the amanat nak translate at UITM especially. Is a very good one because of the reason why I quote this because of it's quite um, relevant because of we are talking about the exponentials of artificial intelligence, and how does we as a educators, or maybe the higher education provider, or maybe students start to look at what kind of skill sets that require. It's not only talking about we are developing a program and we are come up with a very generic or maybe specific attribute required by the program, but also what are the skill set that required by the student itself. And this kind of skill set is not only required by the student, but also we as educators need to have this skill set to ensure that the transferable knowledge, skills, and ability can be completely done because of the lecturer also start to explore the new potentials of artificial intelligence. And interestingly, one of the verbatim on that amanat, uh, she mentioned, our Datuk Wisti mentioned about melahirkan pelajar serba lengkap dengan smart and sharp skill. It's quite trending because of currently we are talking much about not only about generic skills or maybe specific skills, but also we are talking about the smart skills and the sharp skills. So what are those meaning on this particular statement? All right, if we are referring into the smart, I think that in the perspective of overcome the challenge of artificial intelligence, I do believe that the skill set of analytical strategic thinkers or analytical thinking, something that we need to upskills and retrain ourselves because of whatever technology come in. I do believe that the analytical thinking is something that is a must for every educators of the students. It's not only to solve the problem, might be also to provide a new solutions to the complex problem solving. So I do believe that analytical thinking is one of the skill set required by us as educators or maybe by the students. And the sharp skills is referring on the ability to think and respond quickly and accurately. All right. So meaning that when the student get maybe one answer, maybe one questions, or maybe a set of problem, they are able to respond quickly and accurately. And there are a lot of skill sets that we can explore, but for this session, I just want to bring only three skill set, meaning that articulation, curation, and optimization, which is that might be relate with the use of ChatGPT. All right, so meaning that as an individual, you need to be smart in the way that you're able to analytically think about something that you get, and how can you as an individual use your sharp skills to respond quickly and accurately through articulation, curation, and optimization. Because of the real challenge of ChatGPT is we can get the vast of informations uh, and boundaries. There are a lot of hypothetical answers, hypothetical statements, hypothetical solutions, and how can we use our wisdom of knowledge, start to articulate, curate, and optimize the information that we get from the Chat GPT. All right. So this is must be. I think that this one is very good, interesting study I have done with UITM. I just want to share. I do believe that maybe after this UMT or maybe other university can do this. All right. Um, Interestingly, all right. So I do conduct a one study with students, all right, a student at UITM with several numbers. Not many, but I think that around 2,500 students involved in this study, and I did ask them, are you familiar with the utilization of ChatGPT or other artificial intelligence bots? So about 959 is unsure. They are unsure. They heard about it. They know people talking about it, but the student itself is unsure. So they are in the midst of whether they're aware or unaware. But there are 9699 say no. They are not familiar with the ChatGPT. All right. So they are no they have no idea about ChatGPT. And there are 629 students say yes, they use Chat GPT, they explore the Chat GPT, and they think that the Chat GPT really helped them in doing their teaching and in doing their learning process and also the assessment. And the second question I asked the student is the student proficiency in the use of ChatGPT is quite fluctuate. With the mean of 2.3, I do believe that I can assume that most of the students heard about ChatGPT, but they are not really explore the potential of ChatGPT. And I do believe that the student use the ChatGPT just at the surface level, not like us, because of we as educators, I think that we are go much deeper and we are explore the different potentials of ChatGPT. That's the reason why our conscious, our awareness, and our what we call our sensitivity about the integrity of the students dealing with ChatGPT is slightly increasing day by day, because of we are know how how does the ChatGPT can do uh, in our daily life, and what if the student misuse that would make us a bit worry about the use of ChatGPT. All right, and perhaps because of I want to make sure that when we are talking about the smart skill, I have mentioned about the articulation, curation, and optimization. Why these articulations, curation, and optimization become so important? Because of what? Because of the student will get there are a lot of informations. All right, there are some information is useful, there are some information is not useful, but it's still information. But how can the student use their ability to articulate, to curate, and after that to think about how does the information really can be optimized until the level of maybe can solve their problems. So the next question is asking them on how can they use all the three attributes. All right. So the first number one, the first question is asking them is the ability to find and present resources for the academic use. 3.45, not bad. So I think that without having ChatGPT, the student is actually have this skill set about 3.5, and they are good. All right. Maybe a little bit more on the three, but I think that it's good for them. All right. It's still good. All right. And the next question, we're asking them about the curating resources for academic purposes, 3.46. So meaning that when we designing our curriculum, all right, especially on digital skills for MQF 2.0 or maybe information management and lifelong learning for MQF 1.0, this skill set is already transferred to our students through our program learning outcome. So I do believe that maybe on the designing of the curriculums, this skill set already embedded, implicit or explicitly, in the curriculum. So the ability of the students to searching information, to filter the informations, then to what we call to filter, and after that to curate and articulate is something that they use in their campus life or as a student. All right. So on the text, on the third question, I asking them, but how do they able to optimize resources for the academic purposes? Yes, 3.51. So they know how to utilize and they know how to optimize the internet resources. I do believe that because of maybe there are some skills that also has been covered by the library at university. We have our librarian help the students, or maybe we have our academic advisor, or maybe the lecture itself teach them on how to use and how to optimize the resources. And the last part is, are they have the ability to decide the appropriateness and the relevance of resources for the academic purposes? They say that 3.56. So meaning that, yes, if we can look at here, while the student is unsure about the Chatgpt or maybe or other artificial intelligence, but in terms of articulation, curation, and optimization, I do believe that the student have the skill set. And the most important part here is, how can we address the use of ChatGPT by utilizing their ability and make it the use of ChatGPT much better in the purpose of using the ChatGPT, and how can we educate them with a very good syllabus, maybe with a very good session with the students, and expose them how does the ChatGPT can help them in their learning process. All right. So what I can say here is, this is some sort of illustration, trying to illustrate the understanding of, yes, we need to agree that the technology is there because of the use of the use of artificial intelligence is not only ChatGPT. There are a lot more, so we have to face it. But what we need to ensure is, how does the enabler of smart skill and sharp skill has been transferred to our students, and let them to understand and let them to maybe have the skill set before they use the technology. So these are the things that I think that required by the students, but not only by the student, but also by the lecturer itself. And I do believe that there are a lot of university, they have come up their own policy, their own circular, their own guideline. Same goes with your ITM. We already have that, the perkeliling, or what we call the circular, but and that perkeliling emphasize on the use of ChatGPT should be a part of something that we accept it, and also we start to what we call celebrate it. Just a matter of how can we ensure that we can develop a very good questions, the question that really can test it, the student metacognitive, the student can let the student to solve the problem authentically and whatnot. So this is our part as a lecturers to think about it. All right. And as far as your concerns, I do believe that uh, we cannot design our question as like before, because of, if we start looking on the coverage, on the memorizations, on or maybe on the sequence, I do believe that it easily can be tracked. It can be easily can be accessed through the ChatGPT. Um, I think that is something that must be drastic changes. Uh, we can't rely on the margin, or the coverage, or the memorization as what we did before. So we need to look at how can we design the questions that put the personal context, the social cultural context, and also the physical context, to make sure that we can come up with a good questions. So meaning that um, the lecture itself need to be knowledgeable, need to be more critical, and need to be more creative in designing a questions. All right. And I think that those who are with me in many webinars, I do believe that I love to emphasize this because of the levels of difficulty is there. I think that every each of us know about the level of difficulty from C1 until C6. But the most important part here is to understand the knowledge dimensions. How can we design the questions by knowing the knowledge dimension that has been divided into four areas? Um, is a factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. And all of these range of verbs can be used, and we can uh, use this as a guide in helping us on designing a good question. So you can change this. You can change the verb by looking at the synonym. You can design the question based on the purpose. Just a matter of you as the lecturers need to set what kind of question that you want to come up, what kind of question that you want to share with your students, and by having this, all right, by knowing the levels of difficulty, the intentions of learning of the knowledge dimensions, these are the 6 steps of designing um, a good question. This one is we call a Socratic questioning technique. There are 6 types. There are clarification, challenging assumption, availing reasonings, implication and consequences, and challenging the questions. And on the ChatGPT, I will use this as a parameter in helping me to ensure that I can come up with a good question based on the purpose looking at the Socratic questioning techniques. So now, without further delay, so we want to start with designing a question using ChatGPT, and I do believe that if all my friends have a laptop in front of them, or maybe you have maybe tablet or iPad, we can do it this together, and give me your response. What do you get from the probing that I shared with you? And I do believe that while the probing is the same, I can guarantee you the hypothetical statement may be different. All right. So by looking at this conversation, all right, so we want to frame our conversation by looking at the understanding of 6 types of Socratic technique. So we are framing our mind. All right, when I want to design my questions, so I will use this Socratic questioning technique as a parameter of my probing questions. All right, and after that, I should know what is the Bloom taxonomy is all about, because of this is very important for you to decide which levels of taxonomy that you want to explore, and from that taxonomy you can maybe looking at many possibles of question can be construct based on that level of taxonomy. Same goes knowledge dimensions, and we need to put the context. Okay, guys. Okay, what we want to do? Okay, the first activity that we will do is we try to prop a questions. The first number one, we want to create a, a simple MCQ, a very simple MCQ, because of the way of this webinar. We will start with the MCQ, and after that we will extend the more difficult questions to the more difficult question to the open-ended question and the alternative assessment question if we have time. All right. So these are the probing questions. So the bracket with the question format, meaning that the question format is referring to the Socratic questioning techniques, and the Bloom taxonomy, and also the knowledge dimension is the parameter. So I will share you the full text after this. And the last part is use title or topic as of a topic of the questions, and you create in the forms of table. Okay. Um, because of the reason why I put create in the table, I am the person uh love to see everything in order. So instead of ChatGPT give me a very long text, I would prefer the ChatGPT helping me to make it in the table form and easy for me to um see and also to read what are the solution give by the ChatGPT. All right, now, okay, and if you look at the probing questions, at the below one is the complete probing questions. You can copy and paste this probing question, no problems. All right. So what we want to do here now is we will move to the Chat GPT screen. All right. So let me to out from here. Okay. Stop sharing. And now let's we move to the Chat GPT. Uh, yeah. All right. So let's we move to the Chat GPT. Okay, guys. If you have any answers, please ask, and I try my best to answer the questions. All right. So before we go further, and also to explore further the potentials of Chat GPT, perhaps. All right. Okay. All right, guys. All right. Okay. This is the Chat GPT. All right. So I do believe that all of you already open up your Chat GPT. All right. And I sure that maybe some of you already purchased or subscribe the Chat GPT. So I also subscribing this Chat GPT Plus just to get some sort of the benefit of more extra mileage the use of ChatGPT. And if you look, if you are subscribing the ChatGPT, you will see that there are default GPT 3.5, legacy GPT 3.5, and also the GPT-4. I think that the previous week is quite overwhelming. They are talking about the Chat GPT-4. There are a lot of information. Somehow, I pun pening kepala bila baca banyak sangat maklumat pasal Chat GPT-4. And I do believe that when you selecting this model, because of this a neuro programming language, they already give you some sort of advice. If you look on the default one, reasoning, speed, and also conciseness is quite okay as compared than the legacy, because this one is the previous ChatGPT Plus. But if you go for the ChatGPT 4, this one more tremendous because of the reasoning far better. All right, but the speed is lower down, and also the conciseness. I think that far better from the default ChatGPT 3.4. Just a matter of if you opt for ChatGPT. All right, if you look at here, ChatGPT currently has a cap 25 message. I think that last week they have 100, but now they are reducing 25 messages in every 3 hours. And after 3 hours, you cannot use the ChatGPT. You have need wait for a few times, then you can use back the ChatGPT 4. But I think that if you have a very good questions asking from here, I think that 25 messages is fair enough to solve the problem. All right, but if you want to play around the ChatGPT just to explore the potential to do a lot of try and error, 3.5 is sufficient enough. All right, okay. Now, um, on this first activity, all right. So I hope that every each of you can follow me, or maybe, and if you have a difficulty, just raise your hand, and then we try to fix the problem collaboratively. All right. So I think that as mentioned by Prof. Karim before this, or maybe Chua Kiman, I think that because of this one is the neuro programming language, I could say that it's more towards on the hypothetical solutions, answer, or statement. So we have to be careful and mindful, because of that's the reason why we need to use the ability of analytical thinking to really ensure that whatever that we are probing through ChatGPT is something that sounds logic and logic. All right. So let's have a start your conversation with the ChatGPT. All right. So, all right. So these are the maybe the conversation that I want to start with my friends ChatGPT. All right. So I want to make sure that you still the mastermind of everything. Let the ChatGPT become your second brain. All right. So what I put here is ignore all the previous instruction before. This one, you are the expert of the assessment. You can change this one into something that you want to. All right. And I posted here. All right. Right. So don't be surprised. The reason why maybe the response is more faster because I am subscribing this account. So this is some sort of privilege. When you're subscribing, you will get a very good response. All right. So now the next probing is okay. I put my probing format that I showed in the presentation. All right. So the intention here is use clarification types of Socratic, the questioning techniques with a Bloom taxonomy and knowledge dimension, factual, conceptual, procedural, and metacognitive. You can put all four, or maybe you can choose either one, or maybe you can have maybe two. It's depending on you. But on this exercise, I put all four together and use formative assessment as a topic, and please create in a table. So I posted these questions and I let the ChatGPT to provide me the possible questions that I can ask to the student from C1 until C6. All right. So the reason why I asking them, or I asking the ChatGPT to simulate the question from C1 until C6, because of I want to see the potential of every single levels of difficulty. So I don't want to start with okay, please bring me the MCQ with the level of access, maybe understanding or applying. I don't want to start with that because of what? Because of I want to really sure when I asking a clarification questions, so what kind of questions that I can use from here, and how can I relate with the Bloom taxonomy, and how about the knowledge dimensions. All right. So this is where that you will get more information on the chat GPT. All right. So while doing this, all right, I do believe that, all right, what I did for myself, all right, I extracting all of those information from the chat GPT and put it in the table and start to think about, okay, if I asking them these questions, what kind of item that might be possible for me to construct. All right, because of you already know, all right, you already know what are those potentials. All right, so same goes with understanding, applying, analyzing, and evaluating, because of I want to get the bigger picture. All right, based on that topic, with that variance, with that levels of difficulty, so I can decide what are the item that I want to construct based on that questions. All right. For example, for the activity number one, so I transfer all the knowledge into a table, and I saw that okay, this question may be suitable for MCQ questions. So I bring back for you to the chat GPT. All right. And then in these questions, all right, in these questions, you think that okay, can you define what do you mean by formative assessment, remembering factual? So you think that okay, this question may be good for MCQ test. So what you can do here is okay, I probe this GPT one questions. Okay, propose one complex MCQ related to the formative assessment, four alternative answers, one right answers, four wrong answers, and set a question with the duration 1 minute and 30 seconds. post it here, and this ChatGPT will give you the proposed or what we call the hypothetical solutions on the MCQ questions. So what you need to do here is to read all the sentence. If you think that this question is good enough or the answer is good enough, then these are the answers, the answer C, and these are the explanations of that particular MCQ. All right. And what if, okay, what if I want to explore the potential of MCQ test for all level? Is it possible or is it doable? You can do that. Asking to the ChatGPT, create MCQ question for all level of difficulty from C1 until C6. Use formative assessment as a topic of the question, and please create me a table. And absolutely, they can provide you the questions. All right. So using this one, they will open up for you the opportunity to explore more potential questions, and you will get a lot of choice, or maybe you will know that, okay, this question is not only can access at C1 or C2, but it can be extended from C3 until C6. So, and for example, all right, if I want to pick from C1 until C6, I just want to pick one from C4. Can I extract that C4 and construct one specific MCQ? Yes, you can do that, and the ChatGPT will give you the possible questions for you. There are three, all right? There are three possible questions that you can use, right? Question number 1, question number 2, and question number 3. From only just one, all right? These are the intention, just only from one C4 and analyzing. Now, the ChatGPT will give you more options for you to choose, and these are the maybe the question that might be used for your maybe for your test or maybe for your exam paper. Okay, if I read these questions, I want to do some sort of refinement. All right, can I do some sort of refinement? Yes, you can do the
Sebab kalau mak
refinement.
pusat kena dekat atau
Right.
thumbprint, kat sini tak perlu dia kata.
Okay.
Dia tak nak bagilah kad tu.
Okay.
Tapi tak apalah, kalau Cik Ridwan ni saya pergi Syahid dia.
Mazia,
Saya
okay.
nak guna sana. Sebab
Dr.
sini
Mazia?
ada image kan.
Dr. Mazia, please. Thank you.
Alright. Okay. 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 If you look at the first all the three questions, they started the question with the question marks. All right, the question marks. So somehow there are a lot of practice. They want to use a statement instead of question mark. Can we change the question from having a question mark into the statement? Yes, we can do that. What we can ask the ChatGPT? I asking the ChatGPT to alter. Okay, alter question number 1 using sentences without question marks instead of question sentences. So then they will give you some sort of refinement. So the refined version. Okay, this refined version can be done over and over again until you feel satisfied with that answers. Alright, kalau you tengok dekat sini, there are nothing changes, but you can do some sort of refinement again. Alright. So, okay, masih lagi sama. So you can do, maybe your probing is not right, or you have to do something with your probing. Okay, doesn't matter. Alright. So, if let's say, alright, you already refine your questions, can you refine your answers? Yes, you can refine your answers, because of when you read all these answers, you think that, okay, these answers maybe sounds not homogeneous. So what can I ask them is, could the chat GPT refine, okay, answer on the A, B, and C and D sound homogeneous and increase levels of thinking. So then the chat GPT will provide you a different kind of answers that can be uh, asked to the students. So it's slightly and totally different from the first version to the second versions, the way that you revise. All right. So that's the reason why you need to really know what are the purpose of that questions. And of course, all right, you already want the students, maybe, okay, if the student answer the right answer is going to be okay, no problem. What if you want to provide a feedback to your student if they are wrongly answer the questions? So if we look at here, all right, maybe you can ask the ChatGPT, if the student wrongly answer the questions, all right, please provide student feedback and way to improve. Then, all right, they will give you, okay, the way on how the student can improve themselves. And I think that if you want to use this one as a formative testing, all right, for example, you are using maybe your LMS, or you are maybe using Kahoot or Quizy, instead of the student get the indicator of wrong, you also can provide this feedback for student to improve themselves. So um, have a read through, and if you think that the information is good, if you want to adding a little bit more and whatnot, is based on your creativity. But then it's gonna be something that very useful and successful if you really understand the need of designing a questions. All right. Okay. So that's the first part on how can we create a very simple MCQ into something that maybe, all right, you can curate and you can articulate and you can optimize according to your need. All right. So there are any questions that you want to ask before I proceed and go further?
I think we have a question from the chat box, Doctor.
All right. Okay, please.
Soalan Prof, what instruction to have the exam question to be transferred into MS Word or printable format in our desktop?
Meaning that
It's from Prof Touch.
all right,
Are you
okay.
here, Prof Touch?
So meaning that you want to transfer the table from ChatGPT into the words, right? That's your that the questions.
Yes, I think so.
All right, okay, simple.
Ya,
All
ya
right, easy.
sebab selalu dia duduk dalam tu, kita tak boleh nak transfer.
Betul. Tak apa, saya tunjukkan. Mudah saja, insyaAllah. Okay. Okay, now what you can do here is, all right, the first number one, you just copy this one. All right. Copy. So let me to stop sharing. Let me to open up maybe one document file. Okay. Where is the word? Share. And paste. Alright. So ini table tu. Alright. So saya tukarkan dia kepada normal format. And you can lay out your table. Sorry. You can lay out your table nicely. Alright. Yeah. Okay. These are the tables. So shading tu boleh tukar. And you can transform into the table. And I think that most probably semua table-table yang ada dekat dalam ChatGPT tu boleh dipindahkan sebegini. Alright? Boleh?
Okey, saya ingat ada kod untuk masuk.
Tak ada. Doktor boleh je pindahkan begitu saja, semudah itu.
Kita buat coding ya.
Dia tak ada coding, tak ada coding, tak perlu.
Thank you.
Alright, welcome. Okay. Alright. let me go through to the keynote. All right. So perhaps that we already go through the process of constructing the MCQ. And as I mentioned before, we really need to know the anatomy. All right. So Dr. Samsul, macam mana you tahu semua all the anatomy? The first number one, okay, when you want to prompt the questions to the ChatGPT, the first number one, you need to be very sure what is your writing item, whether you want to use the MCQ or what. And then you need to have the central idea. And I think that good to set some time, because of this time will help the ChatGPT not to limit certain parameters, to limit certain context, and become more precise and concise. And you also can request the alternative and descriptors. For example, as I mentioned before, one right answer and four wrong answer. These are the things that you need to know when you suggesting, or when you want to the ChatGPT come up with maybe hypothetical solution for you. All right. And perhaps these are the step by step that I illustrated to make sure that we can use the ChatGPT, what we call uh, maybe structuredly, right? So meaning that the first number one, as what I did before, is to explore the levels of difficulty and start to create possible MCQ, refine the question, improving the answers, and you will get your final version of MCQ, and let to have some sort of extra works, maybe a student feedback. So I think that there are 6 steps if you want to conduct the MCQ using the ChatGPT, something that you can consider for your maybe for your exercise. So on this I think I will share this slide with the organizer, because of in this keynote I already put it step by step on how can we explore, or maybe how can we design a good question through ChatGPT. So maybe I think that you can use this as a reference, or maybe sooner or later when you become much better, and then you can adjust and you can revise from what I shared with you as for today. But this one just give you a little bit of clear information on how can we curate, articulate, and optimize the use of ChatGPT. All right. So all the probing questions already put here. Then you can use the probing questions in helping you to construct a very good questions. All right. So we go for the second topic, advanced technique for effective question with ChatGPT. Now, the purpose of this second activity is to ensure that how can we converse from MCQ into the alternative questions using the same context. All right, using the same context. And how can we put the stimulus and using a different Socratic questions, and how can we generate the question that maybe give us a little bit of what we call options in apa in what we call in give the question to the students. All right. So now previously we successful created one MCQ. Now with the same questions, we change into other writing item. So what I want to do here is I want to construct a short answer, if you can see in the red box. So apa yang kita nak buat sekarang ni adalah we want to construct the short answers. Okay, now go back to the screen of ChatGPT. So let we have a try on doing another set of questions by looking at maybe there are some sort of alternative. Instead of maybe asking a MCQ question, maybe can answer our student with the short answers. All right. Okay. The first thing first, the easiest one is asking she or he a very simple question. Change this MCQ into short answer or short AC. All right. Look at here. They will give you the alternative, all right, from the MCQ. These are the questions. These are the short answers questions. These are the answers. The answers is quite lengthy. All right, it's a quite lengthy because of what? Because of we are not setting up any perimeter. All right, we just asking them a very open questions to the ChatGPT. So what we need to do now here is we want to apply some limits into the short answers. So I asking the ChatGPT for the second questions, compose answer scheme with the 5 mark with the 5 keywords. All right. So because of I want to make sure that maybe this short answer, I want to award the student with 5 marks. Then I need a very important one, maybe 5 keywords should be have in that they are writing. Okay, asking the chat GPT, yes, and the chat GPT give you these are the answer schemes for the 5 keyword as long as the student mentions about these 5, and easily the student can get these 5 marks. So now what I want to do here is how can I refine, for example, if I want the student to, for example, if I want the student, normally student will answer in the sentence format. So I ask the ChatGPT to provide me the answer schemes, all right, within 15 words. Then this ChatGPT will give you at least the 15 words, and these 15 words is something that maybe um, can be put in your answer schemes, and as long as the student touch any point of this point, they were able to get certain marks. So you maybe can change the parameter, maybe not 18 words, you can change maybe 200 words. All right. So it depends on the need of your answer schemes and also the weightage or the marks given to that particular questions. Okay. The more that you demand, the more that you will get the more information. And even you also can reduce maybe 40 words. This is how that you how can you apply all those limits. All right. All right. A very short one. And I think that if you want to refine the questions, you just go back to that questions and start to refine and do a lot of adjustment. I do believe that this kind of process is all about repeating, improving, refining the questions until you are really satisfied with that questions. All right. So the other way around here is, what if the same context, the same questions, I want to construct an open-ended questions. Can I do that with the chat GPT? Yes, you can do that. Just probing them with a good questions. All right. Construct an open-ended questions related to the formative assessment. Set a question with duration 30 minutes. Done. All right. So they will give you this question for 30 minutes, and this question, what are the intentions of these questions. And by hoping that for the open-ended questions, maybe within on 30 minutes, these are the sets of questions that we can ask to our student. So for example, you go to the class, you need the student do some sort of maybe group activity. All right. And the group activity required 30 minutes. So then you can come up with this question, share to your students, and let them to solve the problems within 30 minutes. Or maybe if you don't want to share it in the group, you want to share at your LMS. All right. You have your students learning time or student preparation times, or maybe online guided. You spend 30 minutes for the student to ask these questions, and this question can be transferred into your LMS, and the student will, inshallah, will get this answer maybe within 30 minutes. So these are something that you can place at you can choose where the setting should be. All right. And what if, all right, what if, okay, based on these open-ended questions, I want to be more specific. I want to reduce the words I don't want to have some sort of too much wordy. So asking them, all right, they will give a very concise versions of open-ended questions, and you will see that it's a very simple as compared that as this. All right, how much simple? So you need to read through the questions, and maybe you want to combine the gist of maybe example number one and example number two. You also can do that. All right, and what if you are not satisfied with all this question, you think that this question is too easy for the students, so I ask the chat gpt to open up for me more options by looking at maybe the chat gpt can propose me a variety levels of difficulty at c4, c5 and c6, and let the chat gpt give us some sort of hypothetical solutions or questions, and we can see now here is now from a very simple questions that we asked before, now you will get more option based on that, based on this probing. So now you have more questions, just a matter of whether you want to take it or you want to leave it. All right, so what if, all right, I opted questions number 5, question C5, please provide me the answer schemes. So then these are the answer scheme has been provided by the chat GPT. But again, be remember, my friends, please, before we agree to pick this question or maybe this answer scheme, please verify and read through the context of the question. Same goes with the answer key. We have to be very mindful and be careful when we are choosing, or when we are using all of this statement. That's the reason why before we use the chat GPT, it's good to have a very good knowledge or maybe a reference uh, to allow us to construct a good question. Because of what? Because of what I did with you, my friend, is I already done my reference. I already done read the books and whatnot. So then I know what kind of question that I want to. The chat GPT helped me to harness more question based on my probing. All right. So any questions? All right. Any questions? I hope that there are questions.
Those who have any question, you can straight away unmute
Yeah.
your mic. Okay.
Yes.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you so much for your group. I would
Yes.
like to ask about the limitation of the word. There in any limitation of the word in the ChatGPT?
As for now, there is no limitation word on the chat GPT. Just a matter of if you are not subscribing the chat GPT, if you are repeating asking the same question over and over again, they will get certain limit. So maybe they will ask you to maybe hibernate for 1 hour and get back to them after the 1 hour. Somehow the neuro programming language maybe have a orang kata apa, there are a lot of probing, the same probing, they are maybe confusing. So these are the thing maybe happen. I think I have done, I have faced it this before. All right.
Thank you, bro. Can I ask another question?
All right. Can please? Yes, please.
Okay. I read in the news there ChatGPT 4.
Yes.
It is we already have it now or still not available yet?
All right. Okay. The Chat GPT 4. All right. Okay. Thank you for that question. I think that the Chat GPT 4 already published last week. All right. Last week. So let me to share the screen to give you a better or clearer about the Chat GPT 4. All right. Okay. If you can see in my screen, all right. If I go to the new chat, if you are subscribing, the ChatGPT for only for those who are subscribing the ChatGPT Plus. If you are not subscribing, you just get the ChatGPT what you have seen in your screen. And uh, I can assure you that the ChatGPT give me more accurate information. That what I did with my one of the simulation. All right, the ChatGPT give me a very precise and very good reasoning that I can compare it between what I have done before and the use of ChatGPT. It's a quite intelligent in the sense of they're quite brilliant in the sense in that sense. All right.
So chat GPT-4 is much more better, right?
Yeah, ChatGPT 4 is much more better, and the reasoning is slightly higher. Same with the concise. Just a matter of the speed a little bit of slower as compared that ChatGPT 3.5.
How to beat it? Because I have ChatGPT and ChatGPT only. So
All
how
right.
to update to have a ChatGPT 4?
Okay, how to update the ChatGPT 4?
Yeah.
That your questions.
Yes.
You just need to pay the ChatGPT.
Oh,
Meaning that yeah, you need to subscribe the ChatGPT, then you will get this ChatGPT 4. If you are not subscribing, you will get what you have in your screen right now.
that means it's not free, right?
Yeah, I think that is about. I think that the subscribing license is about 100. Sorry, 20 USD per month. I think that in Malaysia ringgit is about 100.
100 ringgit. Okay.
Yeah. If you want to explore, then you should try. And then after that, if you don't want to subscribe, then cancel the subscription and you can use the regular account.
Okay. Thank you so much, bro.
All right,
Barakallahu feek.
no problem. All right.
Okay, we have another question.
Yes, please.
Dr. Shamsul, can the students request AI to spy on my exam question and answer? It's from Prof. Tajid.
I think that because of that one is hypothetical, somehow the student won't get that exactly accurate as what they are asking. I have tried a few times. Somehow when I asking the same question, they will give me a different hypothetical answers. So what can I advise from here is if possible, instead of we are copying all the answers from the ChatGPT, I think that need a little bit of adjustment in terms of wording, in terms of rephrasing, and I do believe that the chances of the student to get what have you done is all about maybe 70% might be accurate. It's just a matter of need to be careful and mindful. That's the reason why if we want to use the ChatGPT, I will encourage that um, uh, embedding the personal context, the social context, and whatnot to make your questions uh, more reasonings and more what we call to provide maybe a different way on how the student can answer the questions. So these are the things maybe in the activity number 3 I will share with you how can we design that questions. It's not only focus on the answers but also how can the stimulus, how can the other things can be complementing in the developments of questions. And again, um, while we are talking about the open-ended questions or the alternative uh, assessment questions, I do believe that putting personal context, social cultural context, or physical context is something that might be give a difference between student to another students. So then the creativity is there. All right. Okay. Okay. These are the keynote presentations of that activity. I already put everything, probing also the tips, because I do believe that within 2 hours we cannot cope everything, And I think that these notes can help all the lecturer to explore and to guide on how can you develop a very good questions using ChatGPT. And perhaps these are the things that when we try to design the question with the ChatGPT, number one is please looking at what are the area of study that might be suitable. Can we ask from the ChatGPT? And I think that applying an appropriate types of question is very important. That's the reason why we asking you to understand the use of Socratic questioning technique. And I do believe that most of the declarative knowledge is something that searchable in the internet. If you're asking the student with the level C1 or C2, yeah, I do agree that it easily can search from the internet. All right. But if you start asking them something that reflect themselves, make them to do some sort of argument and debates, and let also the student have the same process have what you done, meaning that they need to articulate, curate, and also optimize. And I do believe that this transferable skill set need to be uh, a part of our teaching plan. And of course, yes, if we are designing the questions, also we need to consider on the time, because of the time also allow the student, not allow the student to do some sort of academic misconduct and whatnot. All right. So these are the examples I mentioned before. All right. So the step by step, these are the probing questions that I have shared with them. And yes, these are the things. And what I want to share here is somehow or other, we are not so much focused on the stimulus. All right. So if you can look at here, all right. So we can use the stimulus in helping our students. For example, before we start with the questions, we ask the ChatGPT maybe help us to come up with a stimulus, at least to give them some sort of a background information on what are the intention of that question before they start to answer the questions. And this I have explored this, and I think that so far the ChatGPT can give you a very good um, stimulus, but somehow, all right, we have to admit there are some of the stimulus from newspaper, from video or whatnot. It's not legit. All right. For example, I asked them to the ChatGPT to what we call to extract maybe stimulus from the newspaper. But when I search it and get this information, and when I search it, the information, the link is not exist, the article is not exist. So we have to be careful and mindful, because of always verify and do the cross reference to ensure it's legit. All right. And same goes with I asking the ChatGPT to give me some sort of video. When I open up the video, the video is not available anymore. So be careful. Yes, you can use the ChatGPT, but always do verify the content, verify the link, do all the cross references. If not, you will be trapped in the midst of academic misconduct, because of you are not really assessing all the content, all the hypothetical answers provided by the ChatGPT. So as what I mentioned before, again, use your wisdom of knowledge, use your ability ability of to make a judgment, to analyze, to make sure that we use the ChatGPT just to help us give us a little bit of opportunity to explore more, not really to rely or depends on the ChatGPT. All right. So maybe at the first time I think that maybe I also want to share my experience, because of maybe for the first timer, you will think that the ChatGPT will solve every single problem. Right? So I think that that's the misconception happen to all the educators, or maybe on the student, because of they are thinking about, okay, the ChatGPT can solve my problem, alhamdulillah. Yes, but after using maybe a month or in 2 months, then you start to understand the pattern, the language pattern of ChatGPT, and you know that what are the kinds of limitation and and what are the things that you need to be careful and mindful while using the ChatGPT. But I allow you to educate your student on how to use the ChatGPT. You need to educate them, let them to understand. All right. So yes, you can use the ChatGPT, but the ChatGPT not solely can solve your problem all the time. All right. So, all right. So then, what I need to do now here is, um, do you have any questions want to ask me before I go proceed?
None from the chat box, but those who had any question, please do so.
Yeah, please do so.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Now, what I want to do in the activity number 4 is how can we do some sort of comparing student works. All right, comparing on the student works. So this is quite interesting because of I think that we do believe that we are not just only one to use the ChatGPT only for what we call only for just only getting some sort of information, but how can we allow the ChatGPT helping us to analyze maybe a certain task. All right. So, and I think that what I want to share here is um, I just want to share with you on how can we do this. All right. So we go to the screen. All right. So now, okay, let to have this one first. All right. Okay. Now I want to give you some sort of example. The real assignment from the students. This student do. I asked the student to do some sort of reflective writing. So, and what I want to do here is to compare. Number one, the results of the students, and we can see the weaknesses of every single writer. All right. So, um, I need to recall back the questions. So these are the questions, maybe. Okay, these are the questions. All right. So these are the questions. Okay. Okay. These are the questions because of I'm teaching assessment and evaluation at UITM. So this question is very simple. I asking the student to use the active learning, require student to engage and construct meaningful learning. So what they need to do here is they need to discuss about what means by declarative knowledge and non-declarative knowledge models and choose the framework with the assessment as a context. But surprisingly, this one is very good because of thank you for sharing this prompt. It seems like you are asking advice on declarative and non-declarative and blah 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 blah. And additionally, could you provide the information about the specific context, what subject and what more? So they are asking me more questions. So it was very good because of you can because of the interaction is there. Maybe the ChatGPT have a little bit of less information about these questions. So I would say here is I try to ask all the question. What are the subject and learning outcome being assessed? What are the subject area? So I type it here subject area um, assessment and evaluation in higher sorry, from schools to higher education. All right. All right. So they will give you a little bit of more information about blah blah blah. So there are a lot here. Okay, a lot here. So I think that the ChatGPT try to understand what is the question is all about, and she or he start to prompt me with start to give me some sort of hypothetical solution. All right. So what I need to do here is, all right, after giving so much information, all right, and I do believe that the ChatGPT already know the requirement of my questions. So I let them to help me to design me maybe a rubric first before I assess my students. All right. So these are the kinds of rubrics, right? Okay. They give you the Likert scale, the descriptors, and also they give you the tables of criteria with descriptors and the marks. All right. So interestingly, all right, they give you quite a lot here. So what I need to do here is maybe, all right. Okay, maybe. I want to copy one questions, all right, from my students, all right, and let the chat GPT to process this information and give me some sort of mark or feedback on that particular answers. All right. So now they will give you with the three criteria: explanation, originality, and novelty. So these are the marks given by the ChatGPT. So this is maybe one of the samples that I get from my students. So why don't I get another samples, all right, from my students? At least I can do some sort of comparing, all right, the marks to the students, to the other students. All right. Now I pasted the second student answers, and you will see that they start to make a comparisons between student 1 and student 2. All right. So you will see that the mark is a bit different, and you can see in the micro levels of feedback. So you can see the mark here is 10 to 12, 15 to 18. It's a quite difference, and end up they give you the total marks and what are the weaknesses has been faced by the student 1 and student 2, and how this both the ChatGPT gives some sort of response about this both assignment. All right. And what I need to do here is, all right, to make it something, because of these two idea maybe sounds like good, and I think that I want to see in the clear manner how can I segregate the input. So I let the ChatGPT to chunk the writing idea for the both student into table. So now you can see here, okay, every criteria that I emphasize in my rubric, now I try to chunk it down and make some sort of comparison to see when the student talking about the definition, what the student 1 have, what the student number 2 don't have, or maybe vice versa. All right. So, and that is, it can justify you why the student maybe number 1 and number 2 get a different marks. And for example, if I collected all maybe 20 articles, and if I can do this, meaning that I can understand how the student respond into my essay, and if I want to do some sort of wrap up, so I can combine all the gist of information and discuss in the following classroom. So what I can do, so what I asking here is I ask the ChatGPT because of I want to give feedback for the next week classes, and ask the ChatGPT combine the first student idea and the second student idea and construct a new reflective writing within 500 words. So meaning that you can combine all the gist of idea, and the next coming classes you can discuss within that context without missing any points of every student that submit the assignment to you. So this is where that the process of data processing has been simplified has been make us much easier, and I think that we just need we just need to spend our time to read, to analyze, and to justify whether the hypothetical answer or statement giving by this ChatGPT is something that legit or not. So it's more toward back to us back. All right. So on to make sure that the information is doing good or not. All right. So this is where one of the example, meaning that you can asking the questions, you can compare the results, the students, you can create the rubrics, and even and after that you can compare the student work based on this information. There are a lot of information that you can get from this ChatGPT. Just a matter of, as I mentioned again, analytical thinking, articulation, creation, and optimization should be a part of our skill set for nowadays. All right. So, any questions?
Is there any question? Please feel free to ask question at any point.
At
Okay,
any point?
sementara Dr. Shamsul is here with us today.
Hari ni tak banyak cakap, hari ni kita banyak tunjuk contoh-contoh sebab yang cakap-cakap tu kan dah banyak kan. So hari ni saya memang nak tunjuk contoh yang banyak sebenarnya. Alright.
Okay.
I think that one more thing, if you notice that, if you look, there are a few functions. It's not only ChatGPT. I think that if you aware or non-aware, there are maybe a few tools. I can so-called artificial intelligence tools, but they are not claimed in that such manner. All right. So, for example, if we look at what we call here with all right. Okay. Sorry. Okay, for that purpose, I already put in my notes. Don't worry. All right. I already put in my notes all the step given in my hands-on. I already put in my notes. All right. So you can go step by step and look at it. All right. And how does the first version and the second version attempt has been done. All right. So and after that I think that we need to be also I think that when I use the ChatGPT, I also use a few tools, for example Grammarly, Quillbots, Original, Turning In, Copylix, Writer, or Sapling. One of the tools that helped me to make sure that the first number one, Grammarly and Quillbot is really helped me in the sense of constructing a very good questions, originally and turning in to check whether the similarity and whatnot. So, or even currently we have the copy leaks or writer or sapling that can detect the use of artificial intelligence if the student use the misconduct by using this application. So these are the things that I think that we should aware, and I do believe that and I think that if you want to see whether um, if you want to see a step by step, also instead of having this webinar, you also can visit our YouTube. I already shared on. There are 3 series here, shared about how can you master, how can you use the advanced, and how can you create effective assessment with ChatGPT. This video has been created as such because of we want to share the knowledge on how we use the ChatGPT, and I think that currently we are working on the project-based, inquiry-based, and problem-based. We give you some sort of knowledge and the fundamental and the theory how to use it, but we complement with the use of ChatGPT. So you can get access from this YouTube if you want to. All right. And another one more thing that I want to share with you. All right. This use of ChatGPT is not only can be focused into the summative assessment, but also you can use for your formative assessment. For example, asking a simple questions, all right, and everything you can do that. Whether you want to do it in the forms of formative assessment or summative assessment, just a matter of you need to maybe know what are the purpose of that questions. All right. I just want to share you another one. All right, samples. This is activity number 5. All right. So, all right. So now, what if? All right. What if, okay, if I want to construct a one activity, maybe a project-based activity. All right. So this, we know that the project-based activity normally has been done using, I think that require a lot of time. But this time around, I will show you how does the ChatGPT 4 give you a different kind of response. So now I change the parameter and setting into the ChatGPT 4. All right. And 35 messages every 3 hours, no problem. For this session, I give, I just want to try with you just to see whether to see the comparison between 3.5 and 4. Okay, let's have a start with these questions, right? You will see it's a bit different in terms of a bit slower as compared than using 3.5. All right. Okay, nice. So what I want to do here is, okay, I asking this ChatGPT, all right, provide me a project-based assessment strategy. Okay, this project is creating a STEM educational context using 60-second video. Students create video and use YouTube as a communication medium, and this content will be consumed by secondary school students and provide the detailed strategy and the implementations of project-based plan for 6 weeks. So if you see this probing, it was very precise and concise what I need from this statement. Share it here. Then they will give you a response. As I mentioned before, it's a quite different in terms of speeding, but you will see that the the content is more much better from 3.1 ChatGPT. All right. Look at here. All right. It sounds good for me. So what I need to do next is, okay, okay. Then I asked him to break plan into 6 weeks. See? Quite lengthy because of 6 week plan. All right. So you can customize the week. Maybe you want to have maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. It depends on your need. But normally, if you are doing project-based learning, normally they require a lot of time. And because of this project is quite big, then it's not something that surprise if it can be extended into 5 to 6 weeks. But here you have some sort of idea on how week after week what the student should be, what students should do by having the 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 point taken on every week, right? Okay, nice. They already give you the 6 week plan. So what you need to do next? All right, what to do next here is, what if? All right, what if based on that week I ask the chat GPT helping me, okay, because of this project already um construct. Now I asked ChatGPT to help me maybe with the 6 week timeline, provide me the analytic rubrics, analytical thinking, evidence reasoning, and collaboration. Okay. The reason why I put the criteria specifically on that 3 criteria because of I don't want the ChatGPT give me something that too much on that screen. So I put the parameter first, all right, and I asked the ChatGPT to design me a rubric. And then you will see that the ChatGPT will design me a rubric as what I need based on that questions. All right, you can see here. Okay, if you read on that particular descriptors is too generic. So can you refine and make sure that rubric is more intact with the project? Yes, you can do that. All right, but let the ChatGPT to finish up their hypothetical solution. Okay. Can you refine the rubric relate, right? Relate the task given. All right. So you will see that they will give you a different descriptor as compared as the first proposal that mentioned by the chat GPT. All right. Okay. Now, if you can see here, the criteria is changing. So I don't want to have this. All right. So meaning that I have to use the same criteria. All right. You need to overcome this. And maybe your probing is too broad and refine descriptors relate to to the task given. All right. I think that this probing much better. Okay. So don't let. All right. Now they are giving me back the analytical thinking, but this time around, the descriptor is comparatively different between the first and the second one. So you need to maneuver this. All right. So you need to not let the ChatGPT to control you, but you need to control all the content that you need from the ChatGPT. So now the rubric is more contextual, is more relate to the project. All right. So it sounds logic in the sense of these are the rubric, not too generic, not too broad, but it's really tagged to the student assignment. All right. Okay. Okay. Good. So we have that. Very good. And all right. Normally, all right, instead of having the rubric, all right, normally in project-based learning, we have what we call a self-assessment checklist or self-assessment question to help them and to monitor them whether the project is successfully planned according to the week. You also can create the self-assessment for the purpose student to evaluate their performance. Then you can ask the ChatGPT give you maybe a one way, all right, to yes, all right. So this might be can be a part of the self assessment, meaning that you can change this into yes, no, or unsure in terms of rating skills, and you can use all of this item to be a part of your item checklist. So it's gonna be easier for every each of us. And even though you can include and exclude if you want to, all right, just a matter of adding your probing and yes, all right. So there are a lot of information has been given here, all right. And I do believe that it's a quite lengthy, but again, you have the power to choose and select what is the relevant to you. If you think that the video planning and production is not relevant or you want to minimize, it's up to you. No problems, right? Okay. Let them to Okay. Or even, all right, if you want to break into weekly, I don't agree all we have the same criteria. So it should be different according to the weekly task. Could you refine it? Then every single week, all right. I apologize for the confusion. Did I confuse? All right. So this is how you overpower the use of the use of ChatGPT. You have the control. Let you control yourself. Now, I constructed my self-assessment according to week. So then it's more logic instead of having this a very lengthy, all right, self-assessment. Now I have this week by week. So meaning that, okay, the student, I want to assess whether the student are completing for week 1 or 2 or not. So I just asking this question, provide in the rating scales, maybe yes, no, or maybe, and let the student to tick where they are, and you can do some sort of formative assessment and see where the student progress um, week by week. All right. So this is how, all right, the ChatGPT works and make your life much easier, okay, in the sense, right? So you can compare. I slightly, because of I using the ChatGPT almost about 3 months, 2 month, 2 month, 2 months to 3 months, and I see that the ChatGPT 4 give me some sort of much better versions of information as compared that the 3.5. So, and even though you can ask the ChatGPT to come up with a visual and whatnot, ChatGPT 4, and you can demand more from that. So maybe you have a question.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof.
Alaikum salam.
Prof, thank you very much for sharing. I have a very general question to ask.
Yes, please.
If you take any help from Chat GPT, how to differentiate whether it will come under the category of plagiarism or not?
All right. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So now how can we identify whether it was plagiarism or not, right? That's your question. How to detect whether the student use solely straight away from the ChatGPT and transfer into their work, right? That's your concern.
So my concern is that, let's suppose if we give our own material to Chat GPT and you want to improve the language or improve the text, and after that we take the same material, with whether it will be considered a plagiarized text or no?
Yeah, it depend because of somehow you give input and they will give you the output. But what I did for myself, because of I know I'm not sharing everything in the Chat GPT. For example, if I have the full text, I put everything full text in the Chat GPT. I quite be mindful when I try to post any of my maybe article in the Chat GPT. I just use the Chat GPT to ask me, maybe to give me some sort of hypothetical only. Or all the construction of papers or whatnot is doing outside of the Chat GPT. So because of I do sure that the Chat GPT is not only giving us the informations, but they are also learn from us. So I think that because of currently there are no I think that there are a few applications that really can detect to differentiate whether the work is from AI or non AI, but it was not really proven whether it can be include or exclude when we put our text, original text in the in that applications. Just a matter of be mindful and be careful on that. All right. Because of it was so uncertain, because of we are not so sure whether the AI detector whether can works well or not, right? Okay. For example, if I shared before, there are a few tools. For example, copywriter, copy leaks, or sapling. These are the two. These are 2 or 3 applications that can detect the AI work. But in terms of efficiency and also the accuracy is still questionable. The same goes with the turning in. Sooner, the turning in will come up with their own AI detector, but I do believe that they were facing the same issue uh, as what we faced before this while we are using the turning in for the similarity index, but somehow we also cannot detect whether it was has been extracted from the original text or it has been modified by the student. So again, I have to be very, very mindful. But I think that as a lecturers, I do believe that after you are using the chat GPT for quite some times, the other way around is not only to learn how to use it, but also to learn how does the language pattern that being used by the artificial intelligence. This skill set is something that need to what we call need to be aware, because of when I using this ChatGPT around 2 months or 3 months, I start to learn on, okay, this is the pattern of the language that used by the ChatGPT, especially ChatGPT 5. It was something that very predictable, because they will come out with almost exactly and similar language pattern. Yang ini I rasa kalau ada orang language yang boleh buat kajian to see whether what I've said is legit or not. But based on my observation, the language pattern is the same, just a matter of they are giving you different answers. Sebab tu kalau kadang you tengok the way that they are opening, the way that they are giving you what we call the preamble, the way that they are starting the conversation, they give a suggestion, is more like there are a similar pattern. Just a matter of context is different. Alright, so maybe orang-orang language boleh conduct study lah on the neuro language pattern for the artificial intelligence, something that we can look at. Alright. Alright, so any question? I think I already done my part. Is actually there's 5 examples of 5 activity. I hope that you can try out yourself, and even you can explore more, even though myself also every day explore what the ChatGPT can be done, and also what are the another potentials, or even with the ChatGPT 4 you can ask images, a multimodal kind of concept that you can use for the ChatGPT 4. All right, but I think that for the beginners, I think that to start with the ChatGPT 3.5 is sufficient enough until you see that, okay, there are certain limit that require you to subscribe, then you go to subscribe. So it's quite good to help and to ease your work. But again, to have to be very mindful on using that one. You have to be careful, because of we are the academician, so use that one ethically, and I hope that it can benefit if we using in the right manner. All right. So I've done my part actually. All right. So hopefully this session enlighten all of us on how to explore the potential. I think that there are a lot more. I just share you a little bit of information that I get, and my exercise. I hope that almost every day they are talking about ChatGPT. If you join the ChatGPT from Facebook or LinkedIn, there are every day talking about the ChatGPT. All right. So something that very interesting. All right.
Yep. Okay, so are we done here, or do we have any more question from
my part? I done here. I done my part. So maybe if they have a question, I encourage. Yeah.
Okay. So if there's no more question to Dr. Shamsul, before
Umaima,
okay.
just a quick question. Dr. Shamsul, thank you so much for the very enlightening session. I just wanted to know, do we also have to be wary about the fact that, because ChatGPT is just pulling things from all over the world, global scale,
Yes.
do we also have to be mindful of adjusting the question to our cohort or to our audience? Because this is because we are talking about Harvard down to really Chikai universities, right? So information. So is that also something that we have to be really careful in moderating, because it's supposed to work as a draft only, and then we are
Yes,
supposed
correct.
to clean it up, right?
Yeah, correct.
So is there any tips for trying to get a middle ground between this range?
Yeah, I think that is quite in terms of privacy and security is nothing has been orang kata apa dijamin oleh ChatGPT, right? So we have to be careful and mindful. Just a matter of I think that to do the groundwork with the ChatGPT is okay, is all right. But to putting everything your original source and whatnot, please don't do that. So I have to be some sort of maybe have to be careful. It looks like macam contoh macam ni lah. You put everything in the Google, somehow you cannot, even though you delete one, you still have orang kata apa digital footprint. So I do believe that way. So just a matter of be careful. If you want to work with your original work outside of the AI. So let the AI work as a what we call as our collaborative team in searching some information and assemble everything outside of the chat GPT. So I think that is going to be that way because of we don't see that any one of us talking about the privacy, security, or the impact of digital footprint while using the chat GPT. We even don't know where all the input that we give to the chat GPT has been placed and in what area in what server and whatnot. So this is something that quite uncertain. So we have to be always careful and mindful. All right.
Yes, it's truly true,
Yeah.
Dr. Shamsul.
Yeah. So because of you don't know, right? So we also not so sure what is actually happened with all the data that we feed into the chat GPT. All right.
Mm,
So have to be very careful in that way.
Yep. Okay. If there's no more questions, so um, this webinar has come to an end, and I will recap some of the webinar's important key points here. The first thing first is we have to get to know the AI first, get familiar with the utilization, especially with the ChatGPT and other AI bot. No need to crack our head. Have to be careful and mindful. How are we going to implement? So safety first. Okay, useful tools and their potential. We have to some sort of try to get some information, and please make sure that AI is a resource but not a substitution or replacing us. Treat AI as an assistant. Am I right, Dr. Shamsul?
Correct.
Okay. So we appreciate your attendance and involvement in the webinar. Everyone, your suggestion during our Q&A session were helpful and valued. So let we go back to Dr. Shamsul. Do you have any 2 minutes words from you as our speaker today?
All right. Anyway, thank you so much, UMT, for inviting me. Thank you for everyone become the participant today. I know that today is the first day of the schools, but you still
Yeah.
attend for this workshop. I very appreciate it. All right. Just a matter of keep on. Yes, we aware about the AI, but not just aware, but you as an educator, we need to explore and be clear with the use of ChatGPT. I very worried because of every educators they are worried about ChatGPT, but they are not using it. They are not explore the ChatGPT, and they start to come up with a very many hypothetical. What I call there are a lot of hypotheses has been construct from their from their curiosity. So I think that let's have a try and share what you have apa yang you jumpa dan let's the benefit to all of us. Maybe hari ni apa yang saya kongsikan mungkin ada benda-benda yang saya tak jumpa. Maybe after this you will you explore and then you nampak ada benda-benda yang you rasa macam oh this is something that Dr. Samsul tak highlight. So let's share with us then we learn together insyaAllah. Alright. Thank you so much for everyone. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Shamsul. Again, thank you so much for your time and expertise. Last but not least, I want to thank everyone who attended today's webinar from UMT and other institutions, as well as our speaker. Hope to see everyone again, inshallah. More webinar with an interesting topic will be conducted in the near future. And just before that, we are going to have a photo session. So I will count, please make sure that you on your webcam, and I will count until 10 with the assistant from Cik Hadila from PPBR. She will snap the photo for us.
All right,
Okay?
thank you so much. Oh, ramai.
Ramai. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay? Ready? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So thank you so much, everyone. And happy, and also not forgotten about the Ramadan Karim is approaching us on this coming Thursday, in 3 days time. So Ramadan Karim to all,
Yep.
dan selamat berpuasa sehingga kita jumpa lagi. Thank you so much Dr. Samsul,
Sama-sama.
Azlan
Thank
from
you.
dari
Terima kasih.
UITM. InsyaAllah kita
Yeah,
jumpa lagi.
thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.